Hey everyone, welcome back. It's been a really long time since my last video, probably about 4 months or so. Just short, I've been pretty busy with a whole bunch of stuff, but it all has to do with the topic of today's video, which is a fantastic company called Fiverr. Now, I'm not one to push stocks or promote stocks. I don't want to pump and dump things, but I've been working with this company Fiverr now for the better part of this year. And if anyone watches this channel, they also know that I'm an avid investor, trader of all things stocks and cryptocurrency and all that. And I feel that as this is also a public company, I want to share with people my investment thesis, because after working with Fiverr as a buyer and a seller in the top 1% of people buying on that platform, I really feel like it is the future of everything in terms of freelance. And what I mean by that is that it's not a website where you just go and you pay some random person on the other side of the world $5 to get a logo anymore. Fiverr as a company, it's a freelancing platform that has really grown into something where you have freelancers in almost every country. It's a really international operation. And they're doing projects from $5 to thousands of dollars, and Fiverr is facilitating millions and millions of dollars worth of these transactions every quarter. And I think personally, this is going to scale up and become billions of dollars of revenue one day. Right now, the company is worth about $7 billion or so. I think by the end of this video, you're going to have a really good insight as to why Fiverr, despite it being the best performing stock, one of the best performing stocks of 2020, still has a long way to go. So in this video, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover what Fiverr is and what problems does it solve. How big is the freelancer market in total around the world in the US, and what is the competition that Fiverr has from other people in this space? What is my personal experience as a Fiverr buyer and a seller on the platform? What are the risks and downsides of potentially investing in Fiverr? Because you always have to look at the other side of the coin. And what are my personal targets and predictions for Fiverr in the future? And what I'm going to do is somewhere on the screen here, probably on this side, I'm going to kind of outlay a couple different chapters in case you already kind of know what Fiverr is and you want to just get to the meat of it. You'll be able to kind of see what section is, certain time codes, yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. So what is Fiverr? So I already explained a little bit, but to go from the top, if you haven't heard of it, Fiverr is a global online marketplace for freelance services. It's kind of aspiring to be, at least from the words from the CEO, it's aspiring to be the Amazon of buying and selling services online. The biggest categories on Fiverr are graphic design, website development and SEO, and content writing, things like blogs and copywriting or writing ads. There's lots of other categories in Fiverr. There's film production, animated explainers, voiceover, music production, game development, email marketing, business consulting, even things like personal training. Anything and everything that a person can do as a skill, particularly from home or from an office, and deliver some sort of deliverable online to someone across any part of the world. Anything like that is a category on Fiverr that you can list on, and yeah, you can go from there and start your kind of freelance journey. So now, for those who are unfamiliar with freelancing, it is an emerging category. It's huge. Everyone's driving Ubers, writing from home, doing videos, content. Maybe they're being influencers. That's a form of freelancing in some way too. There's two major problems, and we'll start with both sides of the equation. So the first problem when you're in freelancing is buying. When you are buying services from a freelancer, it's really hard to have accountability, because essentially the way that it's worked so far is the most common way of hiring a freelancer is you will get a referral from someone. I worked with so-and-so, and you listen to a friend or a partner that had a good experience with them, and you take the journey with them. In terms of accountability, it's been traditionally very hard before Fiverr to have rating systems to see if people are delivering, to see what the reviews are of, let's say, a video content creator. It's also very difficult to make sure that they're accountable for deliverables. Let's say you have a vision of something, you hire a freelancer and they deliver something subpar. Where do you go to improve that if they're not readily wanting to do it, or if they want to charge you extra to improve it? There has been no mediator in that process. And while I am a person that really likes to cut the middlemen out of things, I do think in the world of freelancing, when you're dealing with kind of high budget, high stake projects, it's good to have somebody who can come in and evaluate both sides and see, who's to blame if something isn't up to snuff, whether it's the buyer not providing enough info or the seller, not doing their part in kind of realizing a vision or over promising and under delivering. The other big problem with buying is that you're usually stuck to hiring locally if you've worked with freelancers in the past. Now, this has obviously changed with the internet, but if you do want to get something done like editing or photography and all sorts of things like that, you usually want to stick locally. You'll use Google to find someone to do something so you're on the same page with them. Now, people are getting a bit more comfortable with outsourcing to other countries, but again, that comes with its own set of problems because sometimes with outsourcing you get really cheap prices but really low quality, and there's just a whole bunch of management in terms of expectations that buyers have to struggle with. Now, if you are a freelancer, you have a completely different set of problems. If you're a seller, there's almost no mechanism to kind of enforce payment from a client. So maybe you've worked your ass off and you've made a really good video, for example, for a client as a freelancer. And they see it and they're like, I don't really like it. I don't want to really pay you the whole amount. So depending on what country you're in, what are you going to do? You're going to take them to small claims court or big claims court. You can snuff them a bad review, call a lawyer on them. None of this stuff practically works, and freelancers get screwed all the time in the industry because people don't pay up. So with Fiverr, one of the things that they've implemented is reviews for the buyers and the sellers, similar to how Uber has review systems for the riders and the drivers. So as a freelancer, this is a huge problem that we have to deal with a lot of the time, is working with nightmare clients, let's say, who have sky high expectations but aren't very good at communicating them. And so having a system where you can vet these people before you take on the projects is great. And the other biggest problem that freelancers have is that you spend a lot of time bidding and negotiating on the costs for projects. As a freelancer, you're pretty much running your own business, but it's just you. And so much of that time you can get consumed basically either going from project to project, referral to referral, or if you have a dry spell and you don't really have a bunch of things coming in, you spend so much time marketing and trying to figure out what the value of your services are, whether you should increase prices, lower prices. There's a really big cost of entry in terms of building websites, building portfolios, reels, all that stuff. And then some freelancers even go so as far, if you're not already making a whole company out of it, go so far as to pay Facebook and Google lots and lots of ad money just to get a couple of impressions on their work. But again, freelancers are usually creative people. They're not fantastic marketers of their skills. So a lot of money can be spent as a freelancer trying to get more clients and not really finding a good outlet to actually attain them. So there's a big cost of entry and time as a freelancer. There's a lot of risk involved in it. And on both sides, buyers and sellers, there's just this uncertainty, and it's really something where there should be a middleman in terms of negotiating some of these things, or just there as like a safety protocol in case something goes wrong. Now, Fiverr solves all of these things, and in return, they take a 20% fee off of every transaction on the platform. So every piece of blog content written, every little bit of photography, every testimonial video, whatever type of thing you want to order on Fiverr, and believe me, you can order anything you could possibly think of, they take 20%. Kind of like Amazon does with FBA and Amazon Prime and selling products on there. So that's kind of the business model. If you're buying on Fiverr, you sign up, and I can actually run through it really quick here. Excuse that little notification. If you're on Fiverr, essentially this is kind of how it works. I'm on the Fiverr website here, and this is my actual Fiverr portfolio, which is kind of cool. I can go through all the different categories, and I can order things that I need, whether it's for my business, whether it's personally. Let's just say I am writing a book and I want proofreading and editing. I can click this category, find proofreaders, editors. I can see their reviews. I can sort them by, are they online? Are they local? Are they best-selling, recommended, newest arrivals? On top of that, there's even now, and this is a very recent development, Fiverr Pro, where you'll notice on Fiverr some of the prices, you can get some amazing things for very cheap. Fiverr Pro is more North American based professionals that are doing premium work, are award winners, or have worked with really big brands, and they're vetted by hand by Fiverr, and they can list kind of exceptional levels of service as well. So, and get top quality proofreaders and editors, maybe that have done things for, you know, major publications or books, Penguin publisher, you know, vetters and editors and stuff like that. So I'll run through how ordering something on Fiverr works, because that is one of the most amazing things. Let's just say I want somebody to draw my pet, and this is being recommended to me because I had something similar done. I want to draw my pet. Maybe I want to put it on a t-shirt or a mug or something like that. I can load up this listing, and basically it's a very simple interface. At the top here, it's basically, you know, a portfolio of the person's work, descriptions about the gig. This person hasn't put in a lot of detail, but that's okay. A little bit about the seller, and then the packages. In Fiverr, by default, they want you to put in 3 packages: your kind of basic, standard, and premium. And you can kind of, you know, go down the list here granularly and kind of talk about what type of thing you want to offer people, and the timeline and the total cost and all that. So let's just say I want to have a portrait of a dog done. I'm not going to actually purchase this, but I'll show you how it works. Click continue. You know, I can buy something just like I can use Amazon. Continue to check out. It charges my credit card. I get this promise that it'll be delivered in 7 days. You know, these are all the other things. It's a printable file. There's one revision in case I'm not happy, and it's just one pet, one figure. Really, really simple stuff. And once you're done, there's 2 things. So maybe they deliver it to you and you're not happy with it. So what you can do is you can write them feedback and say, you know, I'm not happy, I still need revisions. Give them their feedback. On a video, you can pause and write the notes where you want to change things. Maybe I want the music different, maybe I want this quicker. With a photo, you know, maybe make the eyes bluer here, maybe like make the dog look bigger or whatever. You can write in the revisions, comments, whatever you need, and the seller is kind of obliged to do it if they've offered, you know, to do a revision or 2 revisions or whatever. If you're still not happy after all the revisions, if for some reason the seller has completely misinterpreted what you wanted and you're super disappointed and you're like, I just want my money back, all you have to do is go to customer support. They will review everything. They'll make sure that you held up your end of the agreement. They'll make sure that the seller held up their end of the agreement and kind of delineate, you know, who's to blame. Sometimes, you know, I've had a bad experience in Fiverr once out of hundreds of times. And basically part of it was me not communicating what I wanted and the quality. And the other part was that the seller had overpromised. They had shown a demo reel that was like the max of their skill, and they were selling like a cheaper gig that was, you know, not that great. So what happened there is the gig, let's just say, cost $1,000. Fiverr came in and said, look, you did this, you did that. We're going to give you back like $700 because this person had maybe like $300 for their time. They're really good at that. They're trained pros. They have hundreds of people on staff who are just there to kind of figure out those problems should they arise. But the satisfaction rate in Fiverr is really, really high overall, so you usually don't run into that stuff. And because it's such a transparent platform, again, you're not going to run into that all the time. So if everything is good and you are happy, you can basically leave people reviews. I'll just go to my profile because I am both a buyer and a seller. On my profile, I have reviews as a seller. I have 21 people who have given me 5 out of 5. Gonna plug myself a little bit here, but if you ever need a product video done, you know who to call. I'll put a link in the description. Anybody who likes drop shipping or something like that, videos are awesome these days for those products. So yeah, 5 out of 5. You know, I've really tried my best to you know, make sure that when we've created videos for people on Fiverr that they're very happy and that I ask them as many details as possible, you know, to make sure that they're getting exactly what they came for. As a buyer, I've ordered hundreds and hundreds of voiceovers from different actors, from people who want to be like deep movie cinema voiceover or kind, friendly product voiceover. And I'll go over all those people, and you know, we have revisions when we need them, but essentially people are great at delivering things on Fiverr, you know, and at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon you to just do your research and see, you know, if this person's done thousands of gigs and you've heard they're real, they're going to deliver a good thing for you. So yeah, it's pretty simple. I don't need to go much further than that. So let's talk a little bit about investing in Fiverr. What is the size of the market that they're tackling? Because you're probably hearing like, oh, videos, niche this, niche that. Like, how big is this market really? The size of the freelancing market right now in the United States is projected to be $1.3 trillion by 2025. And right now, and according to the Fiverr company presentation, which we will go to soon, 90% of freelancing is done offline. And by offline, we don't mean like not on a website necessarily, but not done through a marketplace or an intermediary. So when people are hiring freelancers, they're calling up recommended people through referrals, or they're Googling people and they're just emailing them, or they're having a phone call, or they're walking into an office somewhere and getting something done. It's a very offline process. There's not much in terms of good intermediaries and things like that. And then not to mention that a lot of freelancing in foreign countries is literally done like recommendation to recommendation. Let's say you're getting like wedding videos done and stuff like that. Some people don't have websites for that, believe it or not. And a lot of freelancers are, again, it's all referrals. So I've spoken to many people in the industry who do video. I hire lots of freelancers myself. Lots of them will not even have demo reels, and I'll only know how good their stuff is based off of something on their YouTube account or something on their Instagram, or somebody recommended them to me, and we'll have a chit chat. So many freelancers are offline, and so many buyers of freelance services are not going to marketplaces to buy them. So it's a very untapped category overall. There's things like, people looking for gigs on Craigslist too. So many people are hiring on Craigslist, for example, and that is still considered kind of offline. In my opinion, right now we're at the 90% of this is done online. I think within maybe 5 to 10 years, that will 100% flip. And it is being accelerated like no tomorrow because of COVID-19. So in 10 to 15 years, or 5 to 10 years, I'll say, 5 to 10 years, I think that 90% of freelancers and buying of freelance services will be on a marketplace. It might be multiple marketplaces. It might not just be Fiverr. Maybe it'll be another one. Upwork is also another company we'll get to soon. But this will be done online. It's not going to be a thing where freelancers are not connected to a source of buyers. Very much in the same way, and the closest allegory I can make here is that statistic is flipped with online buying and selling of products. 10 years ago, you might be able to launch a product line and just sell it in retail and have no online presence. Nowadays, you're in the minority if you have a successful product or a brand and no online presence. No Facebook. You're not selling on Amazon. You're not selling on a Shopify. Let's just say, a product. It's completely flipped. And again, COVID is accelerating all this stuff. Especially this year, there's been such a demand to take all these retail products and sell them direct to customer online, because stores are shut down, malls are shut down. In the same way with freelancing, offices are shut down, and these people can't go to little meetups and network and things like that. Everything has to be done online. So again, one of the analogies that I really want to use is that what Fiverr is doing to the services and freelancing marketplace is very similar to what Amazon has done to products and traditional retail. Has gone from a minute share to now the lion's share. Everything is moving to e-commerce. You cannot launch without it. It's the same thing that's going to happen with freelancing services, and Fiverr is the dominant player in that category. There's Upwork, and they come kind of close, but Fiverr is growing much faster than them, and they're going to dominate that. And despite actually Fiverr still running tremendously this year, because this stock was $20 beginning of this year, and now it's like $200. It's 1,000% in 1 year. It's outperformed Tesla, it's outperformed Zoom, it's outperformed Bitcoin, it's outperformed Ethereum, every cryptocurrency, every high-flying stock that you've heard of. Fiverr has likely outperformed them. Despite all that, I still think it's early. And again, it just goes back to that flippening of retail. Fiverr is going to flip freelancing from broadly offline to mostly online, and with Fiverr. And again, one of my reasonings for this is that I've talked to dozens of freelancers. I've talked to tons of other production companies in Vancouver, particularly in the category of video, which I don't have an exact number to pinpoint, but just video production for advertising and marketing purposes is worth hundreds of $billions a year. Almost none of these companies or freelancers are currently offering their services on Fiverr. I've come to the platform only beginning this year. I used to pay thousands of dollars on Google to get a couple leads a month. I used to pay thousands of dollars on Google and Facebook to get people to reach out to me on my website to order a video, to start a conversation if they had a business or product. And I maybe got like a handful of people every year, or a handful of people every month. On Fiverr, I don't have to pay anything, and I'm literally getting bombarded with offers and people looking to do work. Almost every single day since I got my first couple reviews, I've been getting 3, 4, 5 requests. It's a paradise for freelancers to have that many incoming leads, but it goes to show you that there is a lack of freelancers on the platform and a lot of demand, and that demand is going to keep growing, but that supply has to really catch up. And I really think on both sides of the spectrum, the buyers and the sellers, Fiverr makes money. So yeah, let's go over a couple other things really quick here. I want to talk about where Fiverr is today, and we're going to review their company presentation here in a little bit, and yeah, see what they have to say kind of in their own words. So one of the cool things is Fiverr has done like a total rebrand this year. They're really changing from kind of this cheaper look. Maybe I'll play a little video on that to kind of more of a professional look. Fiverr has been around for 10 years, and it's often been known for the place where you get cheap, shitty freelance services from. They're really changing that image. They're really going over, trying to get enterprise clients, B2B. They want to have a whole range of offerings, not just, the name Fiverr comes from them initially only offering projects at $5 or starting at $5. But now on Fiverr, you can order things for thousands of dollars, right? And again, every time Fiverr takes 20%. So let's take a little dive into their investor presentation. I won't hang on anything too long, but just to give you guys a bit of a glimpse. And again, I'll put the link in the description down below so you can go over it yourself. Fiverr was founded in 2010. They're a global company. They're not just based out of the US. It was founded in Israel, actually. But they got offices New York, San Francisco, Berlin, and HQ is in actually Tel Aviv. They IPO'd last year in June in 2019. So they actually haven't been on the public markets for that long. About 450 employees. And in Q3 of 2020, they did $52 million in revenue. And that's 88% higher than where they were last year. And again, a lot of it is probably due to COVID. In fact, there was an interview where the founder himself said, if there was some type of big economic downturn, probably a lot of people would turn to Fiverr to get things done cheaper and more efficiently and not hire locally.
Global recession, let's just take an example, right? What happens to digital content in that case, right? What are the risk factors?
Well, I hate to think about us as being counter-cyclical, but I think that we can actually benefit from a recession. I wouldn't want to test that theory, but I think that in a downturn, what would happen is that more people are going to look for ways to make money, so the supply is pretty obvious, and more businesses would like to focus on getting things done rather than hiring people. On Fiverr, you don't hire anyone. You buy very well-defined products.
So kind of their timeline here. They made kind of their packages, their leveling system, mobile app in the early years. 2017, 2018 is when they started rolling out Fiverr Pro. They started building courses as another way of building revenue, places for freelancers to buy courses and learn things, kind of similar to what Shopify does for people trying to get into e-commerce. In 2019, they've added studios, and basically what studios is so multiple freelancers on Fiverr can team up and build one offering together. Let's just say I'm a video editor and I'm a videographer, 2 different listings. I can come together and form a studio on there, which is pretty cool. They have a lot of communication tools as well. They have their own kind of version of Slack. Fiverr Choice. Fiverr has been going and vetting the best freelancers out there and kind of adding them into little categories so they get more sales, which is great. Fiverr Business. So they have a new interface for businesses in particular so that you can manage multiple orders at the same time. Maybe you're launching a product. You need to get photography here, copywriting here, website development here. As a business, you can go in, you can manage all those things. You can make sure people can communicate across those different categories that you're ordering to make sure everything looks great. They're working vehemently on bringing their services to South America. So again, the vision of Fiverr is not just North America. They're very, very particular in saying that the broadness of this goes far beyond North America. And that is something that is really good, because if you look at things like Amazon and you look at things at Shopify, not to say that they failed in any regard, but you have lots of companies in different continents that are taking their market share away. In Korea, I don't know the name of it, but there's an Amazon of Korea, Ozon, the Amazon of Russia. Mercado Libre is like the Amazon or Shopify of South America. And there's lots of little freelancing sites that are kind of doing the same thing, but Fiverr is really pushing kind of a quality of expanding their global reach, so that they're not just concentrated in making most of their revenue from North America. So it's a really good thing in terms of diversification. So yeah, the world is changing. Long-term employment, not happening. Experience building and freelancing, happening. Work from the office, Work from anywhere, nomads, co-working, yes. And anyone who is a millennial knows what I'm talking about here. Local teams, global and remote teams, yes. Working offline, no. Working digitally, using all these collaboration tools like Slack, the Adobe Suite, yes. And so on and so forth. So they estimate they have a $115 billion addressable market by basically collating all of the different services here. Unfortunately, their presentation has very small font here, but what I can surmise from most of this is that graphic design is a really big part of Fiverr. A lot of the revenue, logos, website creation, all that. But marketing and research, this is evolving. So if you just think of any freelance service, some of these categories are going to grow bigger over the years over others. And all you have to do is really follow the exterior trends. E-commerce, for example, is growing at such a clip because of COVID, and e-commerce entails website development. It's extremely big on graphic design and photography, because you need to get this stuff done if you're launching a product. But again, all these things are shifting. I think the marketplace is a lot bigger than what they've mentioned here. And the freelance marketplace, in terms of freelancers just doing work, is, as I mentioned earlier, about $1.3 trillion. If people just go to Fiverr to have that middleman and keep doing what they've already been doing, then they get a slice of that pie. And so that's what they estimate is about $815 billion here right now. Again, their big pitch, freelancing, largely offline type of business, and Fiverr is moving all of that stuff online. So this is kind of how they work. Buyers, finding the right talent, collaborating, reference, and trust is the big key out of all of this. This is the whole conversation I've had on Bitcoin. Is they're decentralizing it, they're making a trustless currency. All you have to do is trust the network. You don't need to trust middlemen. Fiverr, the opposite. This is an industry that has desperately lacked in trust, and they are bringing that back in a big way by having tastemakers for every type of freelancing category that can go in and help the buyers and the sellers if they have disputes. It's a service that's desperately needed. So service as a product model, again, they even mention Amazon in their thing. They want you to be able to click a button, buy a thing, get your dog drawn, or get your music written, or get your game developed, or whatever. You want something done, you buy it like you buy a product on Amazon. Same day delivery even. End-to-end platform, they're really big on building community as well. Lots of great things there. Net promoter score, I don't know what that measures actually, but basically they outline what their value is to their buyers, what their value is to their sellers, maximizing deal control, flexibility, ease and transparency for payment, escrow service. And for buyers, you get a bigger range of things that you can possibly buy, and you get transparency and certainty on price, which is great. So let's just scroll down a little bit more here. Let's just go over some of their staff and some examples of the sellers here. These are going to be some of the best performers on here. But yeah, people have made $300,000 on Fiverr, over a couple of years. Just freelancing. Some people are doing it to supplement their full-time work, and then it becomes their full-time thing. And we'll get into that statistic later, because that's a really interesting statistic about Gen Z and millennials. More than any other generation by far, and it's growing exponentially, are moving to freelancing as a way of generating income, and they're happy with it, and they're finding better results than full-time employment. So they go over how their business model works. Again, I will link this down below so I don't spend like a billion years on this. How they generate revenue, which is great. And then, so in terms of numbers, 1.8 million buyers in 2017. By Q3 2020, they got 3.1. the growth has been so big in 2020 that they're starting to measure the growth. They went from on an annual basis to a quarterly basis. So from 2018 to 2019, they grew almost as much as they did from Q1 to Q2 of 2020. So 1 year of growth, almost now they're growing at that clip at 1 quarter. And it's slow and steady. It's not, they're not going crazy like Zoom is, because Zoom really blew up. Their revenues are up like 400%. The Fiverr story is great. It's about 88% quarter over quarter right now. And that's another reason why I still think it's early, right? Everyone's going to be on Zoom in a matter of minutes because it's like essential right now. Fiverr is still working on that and cementing that. All done without a sales force. And so this is a big part of Fiverr, because you're probably thinking, okay, if I go through the earnings, I find that they're not really a profitable company. Well, obviously, growing at the clip that they're growing, they're putting all their money into scaling up and building up. They don't want to have profits and dividends for their shareholders. This is a growth story. It's not a value stock, not even close. But there is a certain organic growth to Fiverr, which is really great in terms of helping their balance sheet. One of the biggest expenses that they have had has been marketing and getting the word out about Fiverr and its existence. And now they're growing at a clip organically because, again, they are kind of hitting this critical mass, right? They're going to be flipping that 90% offline to the 90% online. And kind of when you get to that 50-50 point, that's when things really ramp up and you don't even have to market anymore, right? The other thing that's really big too is that buyers on average are spending a lot more on Fiverr than they used to. So the growth of the amount of money per buyer that's being spent is, it's gone from $64 in 2012 to $195. So people are on Fiverr for multiple things now, and they're buying larger, more expensive premium services. In my estimation, this number over the next few years is going to be the one that grows the most. The average spend per buyer, I think, is going to really, really, really grow, because when it comes to the e-commerce market, they are really focusing on making a platform so that you can get all your e-commerce needs done in one place. And to launch a platform, on e-commerce, you need photography, you need writing, you need all these things. You need to help, everything to get on Amazon, to Shopify, to sell your product on Facebook. You can do all these things yourself if you have a camera and you're really good at writing, but for the most part, people are looking to outsource this stuff and hire. And to launch a product like this, it costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And Fiverr is cutting those costs, but since you can kind of go to Fiverr for the whole pie, they're going to be getting more spend per buyer, I think, very quickly as the move to e-commerce grows. And I think this year has kind of shown it. They've already kind of grown their spend per buyer about 10%, 15% over last year, which is great. And I'd like to see that consistently grow for sure. That's a metric to keep an eye on if you're watching their quarterly earnings, is the spend per buyer really increasing? Market behavior is really big. 42% of new buyers made up the revenue of 2019. So the new buyers are coming in, they're getting a lot of stuff done. The existing buyers are great, but they're actually, from 2018 to 2019 becoming a smaller slice of the pie. So new people are finding out about Fiverr, they're coming to the platform, they're using it for a lot more needs. And that is a really, really positive thing to see, because you're seeing this adoption and people jumping right in, using it right away. Cumulative revenue to performance marketing investments. So they're getting better ROI on their marketing, investments. One of the campaigns that Fiverr did is, and they've done a couple of these, is they sponsor YouTubers to get something done. They give them a little budget of a couple $1,000s, and they sponsor them too, give them some money for that. And the YouTubers go out and they make a video, I need to hire an editor, and they compare editors that cost $5 and they compare editors that cost $500. It's super interesting to watch. They all get the same footage, the same kind of like instructions, and you get to see the difference between the quality of each buyer. And that's something that is really interesting if you've ever wanted to check out Fiverr, is like, what's the difference between a $5 buyer and a $500 buyer? And so they really understand how to market towards their audiences, which is great, and I think they should keep doing that stuff. Growth and operating leverage. Their revenue is obviously growing at a clip. It's really consistent growth, but I do think, again, I don't want it to get exponential because I don't like bubbles, but I do think that the growth is going to skyrocket over the next few years as more and more freelancers come onto the platform and bring their existing clients to buy through them as well. In terms of margins, their margins are getting good. They're starting to become profitable, although, it doesn't really mean that much. You can put all that money back into growth. But that's great. You know, it's good to see that in terms of finances, they're not just spending willy-nilly. They're not just racking up losses as they grow. There are actual attempts at profitability here, which is really good. And actually, their EBITDA might grow, I think, positive this year if they keep it up for Q4. Their revenue growth is getting really positive as well, which is great. And yeah, multiple levers to drive growth, innovative tech, bringing new buyers, making sellers, expanding our gig catalog, and expanding geographic footprint. They made a real push lately to get new buyers and sellers onto the platform by actually having a referral system where if I'm a freelancer, I've been working with like Doug at his like car business, taking photos of his cars. I can tell Doug, you can sign up, we can work together on Fiverr, and we don't even have to pay Fiverr a fee. So if you bring someone to the platform that's a buyer, you refer them, they don't even take 20% off of every transaction. You can keep doing business just on Fiverr, and that's great. So you get all the perks of Fiverr without having to pay the middleman anything. I don't know if that's going to be around forever, but that's a great way to start getting everyone on the platform. So yeah, they have a lot of other parts to this. I'm kind of skimming through it, but essentially international expansion, they're really big on. They're translating their website to get it going everywhere. The promoted gigs thing is a really interesting component, and I will look up and try and put a stat in here later about having promotional ads on your search platform or website. But Amazon has much done the same thing where you can list a product and then you can pay Amazon to rank you in the search as like a sponsored item, kind of like the way that Google does. So this advertising revenue, it's a brand new source of income for them. It's in beta for them as well. I've used it. But imagine freelancers going and paying thousands of dollars on Google, Facebook to get their things promoted to their local audiences. Now, they're on Fiverr, so they've stopped using that platform, and they're doing really well. But they want to take that next leg up. They want to get even more clients because their business is growing. Now, all they have to do is pay Fiverr to promote their gig. And so not many people are using this tool. I've used it. I've gotten good results out of it because not many people have used this tool. But you can promote your listing to the top of the ranks if you don't have a lot of reviews to get a head start in terms of getting clients and getting leads and getting gigs and processing these things. For them, it's free real estate. It's free money because you basically pay a bid, a CPM, just like you do with Google and Facebook, and you get to the top and they just collect that. That's going to get more competitive, just like Google and Facebook and Amazon have grown their revenue streams through that. Fiverr is going to do the exact same thing as these platforms get more competitive, as more freelancers join, as more buyers join. The hunt for the attention is going to get more expensive. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Does Fiverr have competition? Yes, it does. There's only one other player in the game that's close to as big, and that is Upwork. Now, there are some pretty big differences between the platform. My personal take on it is I have used both Fiverr and Upwork to get certain things done. I find that if you need to hire specific people in specific areas, Upwork is better designed for that. Because when you're on Upwork, it's almost like you're hiring people off of a broad directory rather than purchasing their services like purchasing a product. So I have used Upwork to hire a film crew in LA because I didn't know anyone in LA, but I needed something specifically done in LA, and I can filter by location. Fiverr has this function also, but it's not quite as great because you're buying gigs, not all around people with skills. But overall, I'm not a fan of Upwork. We'll take a look at their website real quick. I don't think it really matters, but since you have seen the Fiverr website, I feel it's only fair to show the Upwork website. It's a lot more focused on enterprise users. So even just going over what they're doing here, they are focused a lot on web and mobile development. I'll see if I can find some stats on that, maybe put that in the description about what are the biggest categories on Upwork. But design and creative is not as big as a thing on Upwork as it is on Fiverr. Things like admin support, customer service, data science analytics, engineering and architecture, people are not using Fiverr for these services. People are using Fiverr for a lot more creative freelancing services than they are kind of these different types of categories of freelancing. And the other big thing too is just from an investing perspective, Fiverr is a lot more focused on, these kind of smaller offerings, not ongoing things. They want you to order your gigs kind of one at a time. They don't do like a monthly subscription thing or contracts that last longer term. Upwork is a lot more focused on serving enterprise businesses, bigger businesses that are looking to basically just hire someone remotely. Fiverr is focused on gigs and freelance, deliveries that way. Fiverr revenue growth rate is interesting because they are both in some ways benefited from the delocation that COVID-19 has brought, but Upwork has not seen nearly the growth rate of Fiverr, much to their investors' dismay. And we'll go over that here really quick. This is an article from Seeking Alpha. So as you can see, their growth rate over the last few years is also a lot slower. Upwork has been around for about 20 years as well, versus Fiverr being around for 10 years. Their revenue growth rate has been about 25% 2018, and that has actually gone down over the years, where Fiverr has been just increasing and doubling their revenue growth. So in Q2 2020, Upwork only grew by 19%. So it's not like they're getting a flock of people coming on there and either hiring more people or spending more on multiple people. Their growth rate is just not really growing from COVID. And if your growth rate can't grow from COVID and your company's been around for 20 years, to me, that is a sign that you're getting left behind and that there is a leader in this space that is taking over. If I was to make a comparison, I would call Upwork the Yahoo to Fiverr's Google. Both were neck and neck at a time, providing the similar services, but Google, came much further ahead with a superior product. And I don't know the whole story there, but you know the analogy I'm making, so it's okay. Gross profit as a percent of revenue, margins are increasing steadily for Fiverr here. Research and development, they're spending about the same amount, which is interesting. And in terms of what they're charging as well, about the same. So they both take about 15-20% take rate on the gigs. Actually, sorry, I got that one wrong. Fiverr, it does actually take more per gig, on average 27%. They have a 20% that they take from the seller offering the service, and then the buyer has to pay about a 5%, fee on top of that. They take a lot of fees, but it's hard to argue the value of that, because when you're dealing with a deliverable, your deliverable is there to hopefully make you more money or to bring you some sort of happiness and joy. So 27%, not that bad. Upwork doesn't charge nearly as much. And that too, I think, is a lot based on people would be unwilling to pay that much for ongoing services. I wouldn't want to pay a middleman, 25% in perpetuity for a year. But if I'm going to pay them on a gig basis, it ends up being similar to like food delivery. I'm getting that every so often. I'll pay them a bit of a bigger cut because of that. But even these food delivery websites, not to get too distracted, they have models where you can pay monthly retaining fees, and then the amount, of fees that they charge is a lot lower based on your ordering size. Anyways, conclusion for this is that Fiverr is growing, and it's grown bigger and faster than Upwork has. The thing to know here is that Upwork's market cap, I think, is, let's just look this up really quick. Upwork market cap is about $3.9 billion to Fiverr's $7 billion. And Fiverr had a smaller market cap beginning of this year than Upwork. In fact, I don't even think Fiverr was a $1 billion company at the beginning of this year, and now it's a $7 billion company in terms of market cap. But, shares are speculation, but obviously the market has seen a lot more value in Fiverr than it has with Upwork. So that's good to know. So from a business standpoint, I have used both Fiverr and Upwork. As I mentioned before, I've used Upwork to hire people at specific locations that I've needed them in, but overwhelmingly, I have used Fiverr for almost everything else that you can think of. So a little bit of background about myself. I've gone over it before, but just to inform people, I run a video production agency. I make things like product videos. I interview a lot of CEOs and do these kind of corporate profiles for investors. I do things like blockchain explainers because I like crypto. I make videos about sectors and things that really interest me. The same things that I like to day trade and invest in are the same businesses that I make videos for. And the synergy between those two are, I think, what has made my business kind of successful. As someone running an agency, not even like until September this year did I actually have any full-time employees. I was using strictly freelancers for outsourcing things. And basically the way that you manage them in a business is you have kind of a standards of practice that you write up, don't do this, treat people like this, keep to schedules. This is how you edit, blah, 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 blah. You have all these little guidelines. You set a freelancer loose. Most of the freelancers I hired were local to begin with, but now I'm hiring a lot more people on Fiverr. And that significantly cuts down costs in a couple ways. One is that you can just price out your projects to have that margin for the freelancers in there, so that you make, on average, for me, I have about a 50% margin on every project that I do. And, in the video production industry, and like a lot of industries and services, everything kind of shuts down in December. So it's a little bit tricky to keep full-time employees sometimes, because you'll have these really busy months and then you'll have entire months that are kind of dead. And it's not like I wouldn't pay them in December, but nobody wants to work at a place where there's nothing to do for a whole month. And sometimes it's hard to come up with stuff to do when people aren't ordering things in your business, in terms of at least giving someone else work to do that is a video production expert. So past all that, I've been using Fiverr as a buyer for about 2 years, and it's cut down costs significantly. I used to hire editors locally. I no longer do that because you can just upload video files onto the web and you can send them to an editor, and they're still going to send you the same review link, whether they're in Vancouver, Canada, or whether they're in the Philippines, or whether they're in India, or whether they're in South America or Europe. There's great editors everywhere, and everyone has different perspectives too on the content that you give them. So sometimes it's good to really, spread your editor base out. I have a select couple editors that I work with. Some are better at certain projects, but I do a lot of them through Fiverr. Another one is voiceovers. You could spend all day hiring voice actors in your city, but the fact is that there are a lot of people all over the world that have great voices. You don't need to hire locally, because voice actresses or voice actors like to have studios to record in. They're very expensive. They can charge you thousands of dollars, and you just want a person to voice and dub your product video. So Fiverr is a natural fit for voiceovers, and probably the most hiring that I do is voiceovers on Fiverr. Men, women, young, old, British, American, Singapore accents, every type of voice actor that you can think of. They even have people on Fiverr that are really granular, that can do like Morgan Freeman impressions. Any type of voice actor Fiverr has, and I hire them through there all the time. The biggest thing this year, though, is after using Fiverr for a variety of years, I thought, why not create my own gigs on Fiverr? I've done a lot in certain categories. Why not offer the same gigs on Fiverr? And we'll take a look really quick here. But essentially, I decided, okay, I can make product videos for anyone, anytime. All I have to do is get them to ship it to me, and then I can find the models locally. I can find the locations locally. I can do the editing overseas. I can deliver the whole package from anywhere. So why not list on Fiverr and have my own listing? And so I've done that. I have 21 reviews, but I've done about 40 gigs this year, about 70 videos for people on Fiverr through, basically for e-commerce. So for Amazon or for Shopify or their own website product listings. The thing that's great about this is that if you go into the gigs here, you can see how much traffic, just natural SEO, they are driving to my listing here. So, and they don't update the data, so it's not zero. But on average per day, I'm getting 600, 700 impressions on this listing. So 600 to 700 people. And these are qualified buyers. These aren't just people looking around. These are 600 to 700 people per day who are interested in products, looking at this listing to potentially get something done. And I'm getting anywhere between 4, 5, 6 people inquiring per day to get a video done. It's more work than I can handle. And because of that, I've been able to actually scale my business up 120% over last year, despite COVID. I've actually hired some people full-time as well because of that as well. So, and this is with a year where like April was a complete write-off because of lockdowns. December is starting to look that way too. But yeah, it's been great. It's one of the reasons I haven't put out a lot of videos, unfortunately, but we're changing that. I'm learning to, delegate things a little bit better so I can do more of these videos. But yeah, why would I use Fiverr instead of pushing my own bespoke services on Google and Facebook and things? We've gone over this, but from my perspective, Fiverr Pro is where I've listed these things, and that gives you a lot of validation in the eyes of people looking on Fiverr. You get this little tag next to your name that says Pro. People trust you a lot more. Fiverr naturally pushes you to emails. When you click on a gig on Fiverr and you navigate it for like a couple minutes, you'll get an email within hours from Fiverr saying, looking for this type of gig. So they're able to market for me effectively, and the only thing that they ask for in return is 20% of the gig offering. And considering what you were spending on marketing, before this, I was spending about $1,000. That's well worth it, and you can up the cost of your production to accommodate that 20% take that they have. So the common misconception again is that Fiverr services, they have to be cheap. Because of Fiverr Pro, they're really starting to target and get buyers on the platform who are looking to buy higher quality, more professional work. I'm a small video production company. If you look at the way that ads are normally made, people do bids. So Coca-Cola will want to get an ad done. They will send out a thing on a website like tongle.com, and they'll ask a whole bunch of studios in LA or wherever to write a pitch up and get something done. And a bunch of people would submit, and then the winner will get the funds to make this commercial. And those commercials can start at like $10,000, $20,000, go all the way up to $500,000. When you're talking Super Bowl ads, people are usually working with studios that they've worked with before. But again, those are big bids set out as well, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You got a buyer like Coca-Cola, you got a production agency that's making $100,000 ads. Coca-Cola says, I want a $100,000 ad. Great, you start making it, you make your amazing ad, you show it at the Super Bowl. Fiverr gets $20,000 out of that transaction. All they're doing is being an intermediary. So the revenue potential for them is huge once they start bagging these bigger people into their Fiverr Pro system. And I really think that's going to grow, and they're definitely pushing their marketing towards getting more big brands, enterprise brands, and enterprise experienced creators and freelancers on their platform as well. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here fairly soon. I want to get into talking about risks, but before that, I want to just talk about monopolies, because one of my favorite investors, Chamath Palihapitiya, oh man, I'm going to get his name wrong every time, but he's a big believer in investing in leaders and people who are the biggest in their category. And one of the things he spoke about is that when your company is over $100 billion, you have almost cemented permanence into the ecosystem of people's lives. A thing like Bitcoin, people used to think it's going to go away, it's not going to stick around. Bitcoin's well worth over $100 billion. It is here to stay. When something grows to a certain size, and that's subjective for everyone, it's here to stay. And how do you grow to that size? You become a monopoly. As I mentioned before, there's Fiverr and there's Upwork. At the rate that Fiverr is growing, at least their stock price and at least their revenue growth, they're going to become the monopoly of freelancer marketplaces. I don't think anyone else, I think Upwork will grow as well, but I think Fiverr will become the de facto one for so many services. There's just things that people would rather buy on Fiverr than they would buy on Upwork. And I think the addressable market that Fiverr is working with in terms of the freelance gigs that they want people to buy on their platform is much bigger than the contract positions that Upwork is kind of more focused on. You look at Fiverr and you look at the growth and you look at the volume that is poured into this and the institutional allocations into this stock. That is people making a decision as to saying, look, if I want exposure to the freelance market, I'm doing it through Fiverr, the stock, FVRR. So the trend and statistics of freelancing too is also growing. This is not just a niche industry. This is a growing industry. This is the future of work. It's not just going to flip, tomorrow, but from an Upwork study, 73% of hiring managers are continuing or increasing their use of freelancers or independent professionals. That makes a ton of sense. When you're getting stuff done creatively, why do I need to hire a content creator in my business internally when I can outsource it as I need to different freelancers? It can be cheaper. It can be done at a higher, quality. One person is not going to cover all my bases if I hire, one person with one type of skill or a couple skills. Freelancing makes sense for this new wave of creating marketing materials online and reaching online audiences. Another really big statistic is that Gen Z and kind of the last part of millennials, over 50% of workers from age 18 to 25 are freelancing as their main occupation or have freelanced in the past year. That is massive. You're not going to find that anywhere else upon any other demographic. So that's basically 1 out of every 2 Gen Zers in the workforce are freelancers, doing anything and everything. There's been an annual increase of about 22% of freelancer earnings, earning about $1.2 trillion in the US this year. That's a massive increase in freelancers, being more prosperous in what is arguably kind of a recession for most people. And then 75% of people who have quit their full-time job in order to pursue freelancing earn the same amount or more in pay than their previous employer. So again, freelancing is not always, it's a big risky thing, obviously, and it takes a lot of commitment and drive to go from that, from a stable job. But it has paid off severely from the people who have been surveyed about this. And again, it's a better alternative for so many people. It allows you freedom of moving around, freedom of managing your own time. It gives you higher earning potential. If you want to put in 14, 16-hour days, you can. If you want to take breaks, you can. This is the way that things are moving. It's the death of the 40-hour work week, and I think Fiverr is on the cusp of that. I've heard so many stories of people who have worked for companies for dozens of years. And because of COVID-19, they've been laid off because that industry has kind of been shellacked. And when you're in freelancing, you're going to experience ups and downs, right? But as long as you have a marketable skill, you're never going to get laid off. The market is never going to say goodbye forever to you. If you have a reputation out there, you've worked with people, you're always going to be recommended, you're always going to be referred. And then the next way to kind of cement your security is to get onto a freelancing platform like Fiverr, right? Because you can build up your reputation there, and then you're going to stay in search engines for perpetuity. And your ability to do things is the same basically as someone's product on Amazon that can live there and generate its own type of revenue. All right, so lastly, I want to talk about the risks with Fiverr, because there are always going to be risks with investing in things. And Fiverr, by all objective kind of looks compared to other stocks, is very, very overvalued. We're talking about a company that is valued at about $7 billion and is doing about $100 billion or $100 million of sales just this year, which is, roughly 50% more than they were doing last year. So the market is very forward-looking on Fiverr, just like they've been on things like e-commerce. And there's a lot of stocks in e-commerce, and there's things like Zoom, hot things, hot trends, where these companies are not really super, super profitable or profitable at all, but valued at billions and billions of dollars. And because of that, it's a very risky stock. It can go 10 to 20% in one day. It's a thing that I wouldn't want to go all in on, because it can, if I'm building a portfolio, at least investing in it, because it can really sway my portfolio, which can sway my emotions to make some, rash buying or selling decisions. But just to compare Fiverr to some other companies, Shopify has a price to sales ratio of 52. Again, Fiverr is about 38, so market very forward-looking on Shopify. But going down the list to even other frothy companies, Tesla has a price to sales ratio of about 20. So the market is not overvaluing Tesla, and Tesla, by all means, has grown tremendously this year, worth $500 billion, not even close to that in sales. Not as overvalued as Shopify, as Fiverr from a price to sales ratio, blah. Amazon is only about 4.7 because they are making a mint. They're valued pretty high. I don't know, 1.5 trillion, I think, or close to 2 trillion maybe. But they are making hundreds of billions of dollars per quarter, or per year. So they're justifying it a little bit more. Adobe, a very similar company, because a lot of freelancers need Adobe for graphic design, for video production, for writing PDF. Adobe is valued at about 18.7 price to sales. They've also grown tremendously ever since they switched to a subscription model, which is a smart idea and why everyone is doing it nowadays. And then Upwork, which is the closest competitor, has a price to sales ratio of about 12. So about 1/3, even less than 1/3 of Fiverr. Earnings per share, 0 at the moment. On a technical level, again, stock was about $20 beginning of the year and about $200 today. So I don't want to tell people that they missed the boat on Fiverr, but it has gone up quite a bit. It's still early for it, but you just have to keep that in mind. It's gone up $200 and it can drop by $100 and still be relatively healthy and, valued highly compared to its peers. Now, the other big risk I want to mention too is that there is a possibility of a setback, or at least the market could interpret a setback once the vaccine rolls out and work from home is kind of over. They have gained a lot from COVID-19, but the market could see that because it's very similar to when the first vaccine was announced by Fiverr to have 90% efficacy. Zoom dropped like 25% in one day, and I think Fiverr actually dropped about 30% in like 2 or 3 days. It's an optics thing that can be seen as, work from home is going to start ending. People are going to go back to having full-time jobs, maybe not freelancing as much. And one of the things too is that freelancers may pursue more steady work as subsidization, like EI, or a lot of the benefits that like people like Canadians get, like CERB. Once that ends, people might say, okay, look, I got, my CERB, I tried to do freelancing during COVID, but now I want to go back into full-time work. That's one less person on the Fiverr platform. The buyers, I don't think, are going to change their habits too much, but I think the people on the platform are going to leave a little bit if they decide freelancing is not for them after the big shock of COVID-19. Although companies may look to rehire staff in place of freelancers, there's a possibility that with COVID-19 over, you might be able to lower the amount that you want to hire someone for because the job market is so competitive. The other thing too is that it's a potential buyout candidate. Now, it's great that I'm making this video when I am, because 2 days ago, Workforce or Salesforce bought Slack. And Slack was valued, I think, at around $30 billion for that buyout. So they bought Slack at about a 30 or 40% premium from what was available at the market at the time. Part of that offer was in cash, and part of that was in shares of CRM. I see Fiverr being a very potential buyout candidate at its current level, and it could happen as soon as like a couple of years from now. I think that if Fiverr continues to grow, then the odds of another company being able to buy them out is pretty low because they're going to be too big, right? But at $7 billion, I'm looking at this company that is on the edge of the freelancer marketplace and is an essential tool that's growing at what it's growing at. And I'm thinking maybe we should buy this company out and partake in its growth that way. The number one candidate, in my opinion, that would look to buy out a company like Fiverr would be Adobe, because so many Adobe services are critical to the way that freelancers deliver things. Adobe's market cap is about $200 and something billion, $230 billion, roughly about 30 times the market cap of Fiverr. So I think with shares and some cash, they could easily buy out the company at its current price. They might make an aggressive bid to do this, and it would make sense, again, to do it before Fiverr becomes like a $10 to $30 billion company. So as an investor in something, you always want to make sure that you get a really good deal when another company is buying your stock. And you never know. But I do know that it makes a lot of sense for someone to buy out Fiverr, because if unless they are against it, and I don't know where they stand on that, you'd have to ask in an investor conference. It could be picked up for a really early price, and then basically you're just getting exposure to another company that you might not think of as bullishly as Fiverr. So yeah, I think that covers almost everything I can think of with Fiverr. It's a long video. Thank you so much for watching this. But again, my advice would be, if you are interested in Fiverr after watching this video and you're like, all right, I want to invest in this, take a look at their company presentation, take a look at their earnings, see what their growth is, break down and chew the numbers yourself. I'll link all that stuff down below. But the other thing is when making any investment decision, what I really like to do is I like to dollar cost average into what I'm buying. And the reason that I do that is because nobody wants to buy a stock at the top, and nobody realistically is going to be lucky enough to buy it at the bottom. But if you dollar cost average, you're never going to do either of those things. You're going to get the average rolling price of what the stock has been over a month or so. You can come up with your timeline. But the way that I like to do it is, when I want to take a sizable position in something in my portfolio, I like to split it up into about 5 to 8 different buying periods. So I'll spread that out over maybe a couple days or a couple weeks, but maybe I'll buy 20% of my wanted Fiverr size on January 1st, and then I'll buy that other 20% on January 7th, and then I'll buy that other 20% on January 14th, and so on. If the price goes up, then my average goes up a little bit, and but you know, I still am making money, so that's good. If it goes down, I'm lowering my average cost of entry, and I'm not buying at the peak of the price at any point in time, and it just makes me you know, a little more comfortable with my entry long term. Of course, with investing, you have to be comfortable with drawdowns. You have to be cognizant of news and fundamental things that can change, you know, the way that people might perceive the valuation of Fiverr. We went over some of these in this video. But again, you don't invest in anything that you're not afraid to lose all your money on. And if you're not afraid to lose all your money on, you can't really go wrong with a thing like Fiverr. Because again, I think that while the valuation is high for this, it's only going to be a matter of time before they justify it. Or let's hope that they do. But yeah, I feel very, very bullish on this company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made a whole hour-plus long video on it. Maybe it won't be an hour, who knows. But yeah, if you have any questions about Fiverr, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I will gladly do research for anyone who asks if I don't already have the answer. And yeah, if you want to know more about my experience with Fiverr, ask away on that as well. I might do a video later to my video production cohorts to explain how to use the platform. But again, very bullish on it, and one of the best performing stocks this year. And I think one of the best performing investments probably going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years as well. So yeah, thanks for staying tuned. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. We'll do more of these if I find things that I'm as bullish on as Fiverr and Bitcoin and all those types of things. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.